Oh, and we are live again. Live? Live one more time? Yes, 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 indeed. No? Let me double check. I think so. I double think. I quadruple think. Oh, there we go. We are live. Amazing. Let it warm up a little. Let it warm up a little bit. Yeah, it's always good to do a little recharge, you know. You gotta take it easy once in a while. All right. Yeah, looks like it. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we're live. We are so live. You guys ready for this one? This is just so amazing. Starting it up. Okay, that's good. Let's see. We got the first one. Yeah. That's good. All right, y'all. Let's see if we have the chat up. Chat is up. Chat is definitely up. Nice. Let me go back on this one. See how this one's looking. Yeah. What do y'all think about this music? Nice. Decent. Enjoying it? Okay. That's good. Now one more on the load up. Sounds good. Looks good. Feeling good. Audio sounds good. Okay. Solid. Let's get this ball rolling. The ball rolling. Here we are. We have none other than the beloved Tucker Carlson chatting with Mike Huckabee.
Their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but
at this
I know
point,
that
it's
these
one
are
Jewish
people who are Christian, and they came here, made Aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights here.
Absolutely.
And a passport.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not aware of that.
There are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course.
And
but do you have a right to come and say, I am an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity, therefore I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere I want, Galilee, anywhere, because I'm returning to the land of my forefathers. I have a legal right in the state of Israel, even though I've converted to Christianity. You're saying that's true?
I'm saying I know people who've done it. Now, can I tell you what the law specifically is? I'm not sure. Because
well, it's really
I'm a
significant.
Christian. I don't have any Jewish roots, so therefore I cannot quote you the law. If you want me to do that, I'll look it up.
Well, it really matters because you're saying, in fact, people in the United States are being called anti-Semites. A lot of them, including me, because they somehow don't believe that Israel has a right to this land.
Do you think Israel has a right to this land?
No, you haven't defined what the land is, and you haven't defined who Israel is, so I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
What do you mean the borders have moved?
Well, they are the 1967 borders. I'm including, the
East
West
Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria.
What are the borders of Judea and Samaria?
Well, you basically take the Jordan
River.
Great question. And it's west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that to Egypt. They had control of it.
Right.
They gave it away in 1979 in the peace agreement.
But, okay.
So
whatever you call it, the land that was taken from Jordan in 1967, you call it Judea and Samaria. There's a significance to that I don't fully understand. I'm not against it. I don't
the
really
biblical
know what it's the biblical
terms. 80% of the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria.
But we've also established that the Bible gives Jews the right to occupy the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. So I'm very confused by why we've shrunk the land and why we're
Israel has shrunk the land. They have made that decision. Okay. That's why they gave away Gaza. They gave away the Sinai.
Now's the part
They've
for
given
the
away
real
a lot
question.
of things.
They've given away Gaza?
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean, maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
That's a good question. And just so you guys know, we're going live every single day of 2026. So make sure you subscribe, like, and turn on those notifications.
Well, you've just said.
I mean,
that
there are
it's not
converts to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me
can make Aliyah. They may not have.
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, trying to keep track, that it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should. I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And
so how is that actually, how do you know who you are and what that is? You know, like, could the people of Libya say they are, or the people of Palestine, or the people of Kenya? How is that actually established?
So if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But the point
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here. Because you just told me that they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Well, there's a whole legal literature in Israel on that question. And my understanding is that certain types of modern Judaism qualify a person and other types don't. Is that your understanding? I don't believe that people converted, and I could have this wrong, but I know people who've faced this personally, know people. I don't believe people who've converted.
We got someone in the chat lighting up something. Jermaine Event, none of you MFS have a right to a thing on the entire continent of Africa, including y'all's GOD.
In a Reform synagogue.
Thank you for joining in on the chat.
Have the right of return. I don't think that is, because I know people who've married into Jewish families and they find out they don't have the right of return. So that is perplexing to me.
Yeah, I know, my experience is a little different than yours. I know people who have definite Jewish connections, family relations, but now they're Christian. Some are not necessarily practicing Jews. They're not. They're more secular Jews, as you've discussed.
So how does, excuse me, but how does a secular Jew have a right if they're atheist? You know, I don't understand that.
But they come back here.
Okay, I'm not against that. I'm just wondering, since you began this.
Mr. One Boston has entered the chat. Thank you for always hitting the like button, dude. We like that you hit the like button, and hopefully all of y'all subscribe because we're going live every day of 2026. Thank you.
Conversation by asking me, did I think they had a right to come here?
Yeah, that's
and
what
my question
Zionism is.
was, on what basis do they have the right?
Yeah.
And
I
you
tried
said
to-
because God granted it to them.
And I also said because that there should be a land where Jews can live in peace and safety.
And I asked,
Okay, so they have a right to live in peace and safety, okay? And do other people as well. Just curious. And we have one from HRP Fayetteville. Does anybody ever look in the history? The reality is you have to separate the religious stuff of Israel from the country of Israel in relation to the country of America. Our relationship and our ally relationship goes back to the British Empire when that area was mandated back to whoever was it supposed to go back to when they were kicked out of Israel.
you what a Jew was, and you couldn't answer it. You said
I didn't
it partly is religious.
So then who does it go back to after they are kicked out of Israel? Curious. And he also says that was Israel. It was occupied by the Roman Empire. The Pharisees were at the temple. The temple was destroyed. That was the people of Israel's land, and it was mandated back. Yo, conservative boomlet 5T6T. How you doing, brother? Thank you for being in the chat. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications.
Religious, but doesn't have to be. It's partly genetic, but it doesn't have to be. And so that you can see why I'm confused.
I think I was very clear that being Jewish is an identification
Comrade Beer has entered into the chat. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
either through blood or through faith that you're Jewish. It may be that you're a blood Jew, but you don't necessarily practice Judaism, just like there are people who say they're Christian, but they don't do a thing to demonstrate what Christian
There are a lot of
means.
bad Christians, including me some of the time, a lot of the time. But I don't have a right to real estate on the basis of my claim of
You
Christianity.
don't have a right to real estate if you're talking about a specific parcel. But if you're talking about a land, I think what we're talking
That's
about
real
is
estate. That's all I'm,
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
and
So-
there was a designation to the family of nations of the world that there would be a Jewish homeland. Let's get to that point, because I think you've taken us on.
And who has created that designation? Just curious, like who is the person that says that? Sarah Matthews has joined the chat. How you doing? How you doing? Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Several trails here, and I'm not sure we can follow them all. But is there a reason that the Jewish people that represent, and I want to get back to this because you didn't let me finish a while ago, they represent 0.2% of the world's population. In the entirety of the world, there are about 16 million Jews total. And 8 million of them live here. The rest live mostly in New York or South Florida and a few other places.
Okay.
So this is a small population of people. They have connection to this land, historically, biblically.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
If
Good morning. Good morning.
Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But
in what sense
ancestrally- but
how do we know
ancestrally-
that? Do you have his family tree? No, we don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. So no one does. That's the point. But
So how does that work? No family tree, no background, but he reigns in that position.
so
If
how do
there
we
is-
know that he
but
has any
if they
connection
are
to this land at
Jewish,
all?
And if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language,
But
the
he
Bible,
doesn't-
the land,
His ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice Judaism in any rigorous way.
Okay, that's a big one. He doesn't practice Judaism.
His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's
His ancestors did not live there and they did not speak the language. Do you understand this?
no evidence they ever lived here. So on what basis does he have a right
very
to be
much
here?
speaks the language. He has fought for the land. His family has fought
I feel
for
like
the
you're
land.
dodging a
No, I'm not
very
dodging.
obvious question, which is where does this right come from? And the
I've-
reason
I've
it's
given you
meaningful
that
is
answer.
because there are a lot of people in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West
Mm-hmm.
Bank, who through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years.
Earlier, Tucker Carlson said that he did not get an interview with Bibi, but what do you guys think in the chat? Should Tucker interview Bibi? How incredible would that be? My goodness.
We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right.
Right now, we are talking about Bibi Netanyahu.
To the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia.
So Bibi Netanyahu's family allegedly lived in Latvia. They are not practicing Jews, I guess, not very religious. And they didn't speak the language. They didn't speak Hebrew. And yeah, this is pretty wild. They're seculars, but you know, he has the position he is in right now.
Or Poland, they're Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
By what definition?
They're Jewish by their
But how do we know they have any
ethnicity.
connection
They're
to
Jewish
the
by
Jews
their
of the,
faith. They're
of the
Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language.
James Devlin, 6373. Johns Hopkins University DNA research shows Israelis have no connection to ancient Hebrews. Thank you for the chat.
Jewish by the connection to the Torah.
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors, ever lived here?
B Bullet TT. I'm Eastern European. Bibi looks like my uncle. That's funny. Is that the reason you have those two letters in front of your name?
How do we know that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime Minister of Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
Well, it's on the basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, you know, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
Yeah.
I'm just totally unable to process what you're trying to get at. It goes back, do Jewish people have any land on this planet
Yo,
that
Billy.
should be theirs to
I
give
feel
them?
that way about all peoples. I feel that way about Jewish peoples. I feel that way about...
Okay, then you don't mind them having
Is
this
there
little
any
sliver of land,
country, let me
right?
ask you this bluntly, is there any country that European peoples have a right to exclusively?
I think they have attained their land through conquest. I mean, let's ask
Have
ourselves.
the Britons
do
attained
the
their land through
Romans-
conquest? No, they've always been there.
The Romans, the Greeks, we've had all these
let's
civilizations.
speak. Let's speak. Well, you could certainly say that here. The Romans controlled this, as you know, and they expelled
But they
all the
don't
Jews
anymore.
from Jerusalem.
Yeah, people, I heard that is actually what happened. Definitely. It came from, allegedly, it came from Christian kings back in the day who couldn't, give out loans because it wasn't Christian-like. So they hired somebody who decided to work illegally for the Christians. And so they couldn't hire any Christians to do that. But a Jewish man was the only person that could do that. And then turns out he was a Rothschild, and then he was the one that started the whole banking system and loaning system. And yeah, so you could essentially blame a Christian king back in the day. And then he obviously gave that info to other Christian kings of other kingdoms, and then, continued that process, and then gained a lot of power through usury. USURY. And yeah, we're going live every day of 2026. So make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. Yeah, Jermaine event, you know about that.
Amen.
Yeah.
I don't want them to control it.
Hope not.
I'm anti-Roman. Okay, we're on the
Yeah.
same page.
Okay.
But my question is very simple. Is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews, including people whose ancestors lived in Eastern Europe, possess here? The Britons, we know, the British people, the Scandinavian people, the Irish people, their ancestors have been there for thousands of years. That's provable through genetic testing. Do they have a right to their land exclusively?
Is anyone saying they don't?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Who's saying
No one will say they will. And I'm asking you, do they have that right?
And I'm not sure what that question involves, because no one is trying to force them out of their land, of their homes. But here,
Wait, hold on.
you
Let
have
me just,
people.
why won't you answer that question?
Because I just did.
Oh, so the Irish people have the same right to their land that the
I don't
Jews
know that they have
to.
a biblical connection.
Okay.
But I'm a Bible believer.
Okay.
So that is
But it's also
important to me.
it's also a principle.
And I think Mike Huckabee identifies as a Christian Zionist.
And that is, and you've said it 15 times.
Sometimes people have land because they were able to attain it through war. They were able to obtain it when it was challenged.
I understand that. There's all
so-
kinds of consequences. But we
Yeah.
can't say that about the Irish.
World border.
Gajo Ahmed. Indonesia is the largest Muslim population in the world. If they claim because they practice Islam, it automatically makes them Arabs, and now Saudi Arabia belongs to them. Yeah. According to that argument, wouldn't that be that accurate? Yeah. Would anyone accept that? Good question. A very good question. W to Gajo Ahmed, 4929.
Borders
Hold on.
change all the time.
Not actually, the borders of the island of England have not changed, nor
the
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 island of
governance
Ireland.
does.
James Devlin drops in. Netanyahu's real name is Miliakowski. Like all Israeli leaders, his grandparents came from Eastern Europe.
Those are just two examples. So
Yeah.
you've got the indigenous people there. Do they have a moral right to that as their homeland?
And I think they would probably say, yes, we do, because we have ancient
What
history
do you
to it.
think?
I've never thought about whether
Now
they.
that I'm raising the question, and you've spent a lot of time thinking about the right
Yeah.
of the Jewish people to their homeland, do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
As long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
As long as they can defend it.
But Tucker, here's the point.
Yeah, that Bill Williston. Fun fact, Titanic was purposefully sunk. The elites that were against interest and banking rule were on that ship. The evil ones got rid of opposition. Yeah, that was I think that's very well documented that happened, and very unfortunate, but yeah, it's part of life. The Lord sees and the Lord is in control. You have nothing to worry about.
I'm
Wait a
telling
second.
you.
Wait, hold on. Now you just flipped category. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling
As
you,
long
there-
as they can defend it.
and
if they can't
you're
defend it,
not
they
allowing
lose
me
the
to
right.
tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical, as well as an ethnic, and a historical. So you can take any one, but if you add them all together, biblical, historical, and ethnic, you have a very strong case that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years.
You can repeat it as
And you
as
can
often
also
as
look
you
in the
want.
archaeology, the stones cry out.
Okay.
Have you been to the city of David, for example?
have. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So you know then that
And I
when
love it.
it's an amazing place.
agree.
It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history because
great.
it's stunning. And they still continue to find things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer, much thousands of years longer. Stonehenge is 3,000 years older than any building built by the descendants of Abram in this country. And so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an
United
island, so we know what the
Kingdom-
lines are.
I'm saying, but are those lines, are those rooted in something other than the historical connection? Well, great, then they should have it. But
And
that's
they have
a
a
question.
right to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think you're really going off the trail.
I just want to know if these principles apply universally or if they only apply to the people of Israel. And my answer
yeah.
appears to be just the people of Israel. They're the only ones with these rights, and I just reject
No,
that
I
as a
didn't.
Christian.
I didn't say that, but I'm saying we are talking about Israel. We're in Israel. We're talking about Christian Zionism because you've made some disparaging statements about Christian Zionists. You've apologized for them, for which I appreciate. And now we're trying to define Christian and Zionist. And it seems like we've gone way, way off
I'm
of
trying
that.
to get, as you suggested as a former debater at the outset, I'm trying to get to terms and a common
Right.
understanding of what the words mean.
And the term
And I'm
Christian,
no closer to that than I was when I began.
you're not closer to the term Christian, what that means?
I think it's someone who follows Jesus. And that's
Okay.
my next question.
All
There are
right.
a lot of Christians in the West Bank, and They're
Wendy Stewart, 8526. Do DNA testing that they don't belong there. They are black people, not white.
there were a fair amount of Christians in Gaza, and some of them have been killed.
There were 5,000 in Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two different churches were hit by the IDF. Christian Hospital was hit 7 times by the IDF. And I don't understand.
They were not hit 7 times. There were different, I know. And one of the times it was a rocket that was shot by Hamas, and all the news agencies reported that the IDF shot the rocket.
Did the IDF ever hit the hospital or the churches?
They did.
Why?
Accidentally, and they apologized for it. And it was very unfortunate. But they also, you got to remember, there were times Hamas often hid caches of arms under hospitals.
Were you bothered by the fact that the IDF hit Christians?
I'm bothered that anyone got killed in Gaza, but you know why I'm bothered?
You're a Christian
because
minister,
here's the thing.
You can't say that the Christians are Islamic extremists.
No, but I can say that
I
the
would expect
reason
you to
that
side with the Christians over the secular government of Israel.
But I would look at it even more broadly. I would ask you this. Why was there so much suffering and continues to be suffering in Gaza? It's because Hamas, which could have built a Singapore, built a Haiti. They have a landmass the size of Las Vegas. They built tunnels underneath that are larger than the London Underground, over 500 miles of tunnels. They didn't build it to move people from one hospital to the other, one marketplace to the other, but to hide terrorists, to hide weaponry. And on October the 7th, they went over there and they massacred 1,200 civilians, massacred, mutilated, humiliated them.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. Sorry.
Goodness gracious, goodness gracious. So allegedly, by definition, a Christian Zionist is a Christian who believes the Jewish people have a biblical right to the land of Israel. Biblical meaning from the Bible, and supports the existence and often the expansion of the modern state of Israel. So the existence and often the expansion of the modern state of Israel.
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
But
ever.
I'm telling you.
I'm appalled by it. How many civilians have been killed by the IDF in Gaza?
We don't know. You know why we don't know?
What's your guess?
Well, the only numbers we have come from this dubious entity called the Gaza Health Ministry. You know who that is?
Well, why
it's
doesn't
Hamas.
Israel have some kind of count on it?
We also know that a lot of the people who were killed were in fact warriors. Sadly,
how many kids were killed?
We don't know.
What's your guess?
I don't know. I'm sure it was thousands, and it's thousands too many.
Of kids were killed.
Some of the kids who were killed had been recruited to be in the military. Kids as young as 14 years old.
Kids. Do you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there were kids as young as 14 that were recruited to be Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
How do you feel about the kids being killed?
I think it's horrible. Oh. You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people were slaughtered by people across the border, and 252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
Couldn't agree more.
And then when
Are all lives equal?
When Hamas could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't, leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I hope
I'm not pro-Hamas. I'm totally opposed to slaughtering innocents, whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said, how many children have been killed?
War is a horrible thing, period. And we don't know. We know that a lot of the numbers were reported by Hamas.
But you said you think thousands of children have been killed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know why they got killed? Because Hamas would gather up the children and put them in the targets. Do you know what Israel does? They send page messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop leaflets and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that. The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel does that in order to prevent, let me finish this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties. What Hamas does, they say, oh, this is the target. And by gunpoint, they push people into those various places. And then when people get killed, They say, look, Israel just slaughtered these people, even though it was Hamas who moved them into harm's way, knowing that it was going to put them in a place of danger and death and destruction. And they do that because they don't care.
Allegedly, let me tell you about who supported Hamas. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pursued a policy of allowing Qatari cash transfers to Gaza to support Hamas, aiming to keep the group functional but contained as a counterweight to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, a gamble aimed at preventing a two-state solution. This policy faced severe scrutiny following the October 7th, 2023 attacks. And to go even further, there is a paper trail that the Qatari requested Netanyahu make because they had a thought that Netanyahu might lie about where the cash came from. So there's actually a paper trail. And here Mike Huckabee is just completely against Hamas, which is kind of like interesting. I'm just kind of trying to take a centrist perspective, not leaning toward any side, but just trying to gather and assemble all the facts and to see what's actually happening here.
You say you care about life. I care about life.
It's interesting
Tucker,
that
they don't care about life.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, they do not care about life, but allegedly there's a paper trail showing who funded them.
Hamas does. You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. I'm
Good.
I'm anti-Hamas.
You've said that 3 times, and I believe it.
Your dig at the United States is very revealing
Why is it revealing?
because your priorities are very clear.
No.
And we're going live every day at 2026. So make sure you subscribe, like, turn on those notifications, and share with anyone who you think would find value here.
No.
Yes, they are.
No,
yes,
no,
they
no.
are. And as an American, permit me a moment
Okay.
of outrage. Because I said many civilians have been killed.
Yeah.
And you said, right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government.
It's
which
my-
And he's actually a U.S. citizen as well. So that's a little weird that he's going to say that.
Country.
consider.
What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is it
What flag
so-
am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's
a
my
US
flag. It's who I.
Yeah, Billy. Paid by who? Dubai and other authoritarians, but mostly USA tax dollars laundered. Yeah. U.S. citizens, their tax dollars. Some of those tax dollars are going there,
Sir.
So why the dig at the United States?
unfortunately.
In the
It's
middle.
not a dig
It
at
was.
them. No. You've totally misrepresented
What did
that.
you mean by that?
I did not take a dig at the U.S. What I'm saying
So
is,
the IDF is more humane than the U.S.
I'm saying
military. Do you
no,
believe
I'm
that?
not. I'm just saying that Israel takes steps that we don't take, and no other country that I'm aware of takes to try to prevent. Because no matter what Israel does,
To try to prevent what?
they're going to get accused of genocide.
That may be right, and
I'm just telling you that they.
But then let me ask you on that question.
Okay.
That's such a politically loaded.
But I
term.
resent the idea that you think that I'm not loyal to the U.S.
Well, you
or that I
just said.
somehow.
Look, I'm not saying you're not loyal. I'm merely noting what you just said, which
Yeah.
was that the IDF takes greater pain.
Dang. James Devlin. The IDF dropped leaflets and then bombed the safe zones.
Than the U.S. Our military does to spare civilian lives. And I guess my question is, when was the last time the U.S. military killed this many civilians? Do you know?
Well, it could have been Nagasaki, Hiroshima, could have been Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't know the full number.
And I think most Christians would say all of those things were atrocities because innocents were killed in large numbers, and we don't believe in that. And so that's not really a defense, is it? I
War
don't
is
know.
a horrible thing, Tucker, and there are people who end up, unfortunately, being killed that shouldn't have been. I would tell you that I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities of October 7th,
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
if they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
What does
Tucker.
that mean, God
I
help
don't
them?
know
Are
that
you
they
happy
were
that-
14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity, and then they hold hostages. If these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, What would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved,
I would
and
not
beaten?
kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I would never make excuses for killing children either.
And I'm not.
Tucker seems like a good man. He's standing by his word, and that's really admirable. Just gotta pause for that. That's amazing.
Talking about targeting children. I'm talking about.
You told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they're working for Hamas.
I'm telling you.
My question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death a crushing tragedy?
If he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage, I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, and a lot of innocent people
I'm the one
die,
who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm
understand.
trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die. We don't execute 14-year-olds.
You're putting words in my mouth that I didn't.
I don't know what you're saying.
I never said deserve to die.
Okay.
I say there are people who die that is unfortunate.
That is so wild. So Sonnet Lumiere says Israel's own newspapers found evidence that IDF killed most of their people on October 7th. May their souls rest in peace. My goodness. And hopefully y'all subscribe, like. We're going live every day at 2026.
Okay.
But I'm saying that you are not giving Israel credit for having done everything they possibly could to a level that, quite frankly, in urban warfare, there has never been a war
I mean
that
to
has been
criticize
documented.
Israel, but it's a foreign country, and I would much rather criticize a foreign country than my own.
Feel free to do that. They can
But
handle
you
it.
pivoted against our country
No,
by
I
saying
didn't
Israel's
pivot
done a
against
better
it.
job than our military
No,
has.
I simply gave you the illustration, and I helped you understand that Israel goes to links that no other country, including ours, goes to in the middle of an urban war, and yet Israel ended up with fewer civilian deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
You said you didn't know how many civilian deaths there were, so how can you
Yeah, can you give a receipt? Can you give some facts? Let me know what you're talking about. How is this accurate?
say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's numbers,
You said you
it would
don't know what
still
the
be.
numbers are.
We don't.
You just told me that.
He doesn't know the numbers, but he knows for sure. He knows for sure that IDF takes more steps than his own country, United States of America.
Then how
I'm
can you
saying
say
if
it's a
you
lower
took-
number?
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 24, 25,000 of those were actual warriors, how many civilians? If you
I think
took
the
all of their
numbers
numbers,
range from 120
No.
to 78. Those are the ones I just read. I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm
those
asking
are,
you.
Yeah,
You're the
and I'm
US
telling you,
ambassador.
those numbers I've not heard, have not read. The numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come
Most
from?
From the Gaza Health
Yeah, it seems like this dude is definitely a flip-flop.
Ministry,
But you
which
said
is
those were
Hamas.
Thank you, Eric WB3TG, for the chat.
valid numbers.
I think they are. I don't think that they're accurate, but I'm saying let's
You're
just
saying they're
assume,
inaccurate, but they prove that Israel's
No, I'm
doing a
saying
great job?
let's assume that the most widespread numbers, the largest numbers that have been reported out of Gaza by Hamas,
Yes.
let's assume they're true. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are true, but assume they're true. Let's just take them at their word. Then you still have a lower number of civilians killed than in any urban warfare environment in modern history. Fact.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
What are you comparing it to?
To any urban warfare.
Name one.
Iraq,
Where in
Afghanistan?
Iraq? Where in Iraq? Where in Afghanistan? There aren't many urban areas in Afghanistan. I don't think there was any fighting in urban areas in Afghanistan.
Kabul,
I don't know. Were there pitched battles in Kabul over long periods of time? I don't.
20 years
In Kabul? I don't think.
throughout all of Afghanistan.
But so what were those rates?
You're talking about what are the rates there?
You just.
The number of people who were killed into the tens of thousands. I'm asking you to.
I don't know the answer. I've never heard
Okay.
of any of this. You brought it up. You said the IDF has killed a lower proportion of civilians in urban warfare than in any urban conflict in
Yeah.
modern history. I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well,
Would you agree
the
that
U.S. military killed more
But
civilians.
would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just
way
once
beyond?
again said that the
Hamas forced the war? And who is funding Hamas?
The IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did in Gaza. You just told me that. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
And I'm trying to explain to you that there were extraordinary efforts to keep
You
the
don't
number
know the numbers,
of
do you?
I think
He doesn't know the numbers, dude. HRP Fayetteville. So what is the answer then, to tell all Jewish people to leave and tell the Islamics, there you go, you can have Israel? Is that the answer? I don't know if it's as easy as that, honestly. It would be great to find peace. I think that's the first step. But to tell you what would happen, that's wild. I think if we can find like an ideal solution for everyone there, and then kind of reverse engineer peace to make sure that it's beneficial to everyone there, I think that would be the best route. But I don't know. Anyone in the chat, what do you think would be the best route to find resolution and resolve there?
think they were tens of thousands. I'll get them for you.
Well, you brought it up. That's the only reason I'm pushing you.
But I'm wearing a flag. I work for a country, and you pretended or alleged that somehow I'm not loyal to this and that I'm criticizing my own country, and I'm not.
They did a better job than the U.S.
He did just criticize. Yeah, Jermaine Event, he just criticized the U.S. military. His citizenship should be under review. Yeah. Imagine that, losing your citizenship for talking bad on the United States. How amazing is it that we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech, so even a man who works for the government can talk bad about the government to make this type of entertainment.
U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, what are the numbers? And you said, I don't know. So on what basis are you making the claim that the IDF in Gaza spared more civilians than the U.S. Army and Marine Corps did in Afghanistan and Iraq? Why are you saying that? Like, on what basis are you saying that?
From the conversations that I've had with the people who fought there. And I don't have the exact numbers for you. But what I'm trying to help you to understand, and I don't think you're willing to go there, is that there was no desire to kill people indiscriminately in Gaza. I don't think there was any desire to kill people indiscriminately in Iraq, Afghanistan, or for that matter,
let me just say, I think, and I know a bunch of people serve in the IDF, and I don't believe your average IDF soldier wants to kill innocents. I just want to be really clear about that. I don't think most soldiers want to do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them in our country, in Israel, wind up doing that because that's what war is about, and it really hurts them. And I know people who've done it personally, know them really well, and it like wrecks their lives. So, but I don't think your average soldier wants that in this country or any other. The leadership is a different question, and I want to refer you very specifically to a number of speeches the Prime Minister, your friend Benjamin Netanyahu, gave in the aftermath of October 7th, including one in November of that year, when he referred to Amalek. Now,
he never got the exact numbers correct. That's true. Jermaine Event, Huckabee does not know the numbers.
Amalek is a reference, a biblical reference. Of course, you'll be very familiar with that.
Amalek is a wild, wild reference. This is so wild. You guys are going to like this one.
The Amalekites were a tribe described throughout the Bible, particularly in 1 Samuel, that obstructed the Jews as they fled Egypt. And God tells Samuel to give the instructions to Saul to kill the Amalekites. And he says, and I'm sure you remember this is in 1 Samuel 15, of course, I know you know it. He says, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the infants, kill the donkeys, kill the camels, kill everything. And Saul spares the king and he spares the animals. And for that, he is punished by God. That is genocide. God is calling for genocide of the Amalekites, of Amalek. And the Prime Minister of Israel, at least once, I believe on other occasions, described the Palestinians in Gaza as Amalek. That's calling for genocide. And you know that.
I totally disagree.
Tell me then what it means.
Where's he going to go with this one? What does it mean? What does it mean?
Because to say that...
Yeah, don't hurt the donkeys, man. Come on. How are we going to get our supplies from here to there?
Israel was attempting to commit genocide. First of all, That's simply not true.
I'm saying, what is the prime minister talking about? Why would he refer to the Palestinians as Amalek? What is Amalek?
You would have to ask him. I don't know. I know what Amalek is. I do understand 1 Samuel 16. I get all
15.
that.
1 Samuel 15.
But I do understand.
And it's widely known. So if you say our enemy is Amalek and we are proceeding on the basis of God's commands to us, you are calling for genocide. Tell me how I'm missing something.
Because if Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could have done it in 2.5 hours.
We can debate what's happened in Gaza. I'm asking
hours.
you why the leader of this country.
Ask him.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know.
Does that bother you at all?
People, I don't know what he meant. I don't know if it was an illustrative metaphor. I think what he was saying was that we're not going to let anything keep us from getting our hostages back, their sons and their daughters who are being brutalized, raped, tortured, starved, beaten.
Come on, Mr. Messer.
No, I think
there are many examples of justice in the Bible, but there are
Israel
very
gets
few.
accused of genocide regularly.
I'm not accusing Israel of anything. I'm saying that the prime minister of Israel described the Palestinians
Do you think he
as Amalek.
attempted to do genocide?
I'm asking why, of all the references in the Bible, and there are many to justice and there are many to reconciliation, that is a reference to genocide, as you know, killing.
Did I miss the response? Like, how did he even have a response?
Every man, woman, child, and infant, I'm quoting, and their animals, wiping them from the earth. And when they don't do that, they're punished. When you say that at the outset of a war, and then you wind up with massive civilian casualties, maybe not as big as they were in Iraq, then I have to ask you, what is that? And is that kind of thinking consistent with Western values and with Christianity? Do we as Christians believe it's okay to kill people's children?
Yo, Billy's wife, how you doing? Thank you for joining in. Karen McCannis, what is Tucker lying about? Please let me know. Would love to know. And we're going live every day of 2026, so make sure y'all subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you.
No, we don't. And neither do the Israelis, because they didn't go after their children. If they'd have wanted to kill all their children, Tucker, they've got the military capacity. They could have done it in less than a day.
I've heard you say that.
I know.
I mean, I guess
so
they could have done it. Okay, but
why didn't they? Why didn't they?
I think there are a lot of decent people in Israel who don't want that. But I'm talking.
Do you think that the prime minister wanted to wipe out every single person in Gaza? Do you
I'm
really
asking
think that?
you what you think is the U.S. representative of our government.
I don't think that that's what he wanted to do.
Did you ask him? Why are you referring?
I never had to ask him that.
Why?
Because I never saw any evidence that Israel tried to wipe out every single person. I just gave you examples.
James Devlin, we're going to miss you, brother. We'll see you on the next one. See you later, brother.
That they tried to save civilian lives.
But I'm not,
and
by
they
the
didn't.
way, I'm not, as I've said, and I mean this, I think most soldiers in most armies, including the Israel Defense Force, don't want to kill civilians. I just don't believe that. I think there are some lunatics.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Janice Farmer, says Israeli soldiers are being praised for the R word of Palestinian women. They are spitting on Christians in Israel. My goodness, is that accurate? Can anyone fact check that? That is extremely wild if it is accurate.
You platformed a guy, you had him on your show, Tony Aguilar.
Don't platform anyone.
Well, you interviewed.
Not a liberal,
Tony
so I don't
Aguilar.
platform people.
Okay, you interviewed Tony Aguilar, who claimed that IDF soldiers killed a little boy in his presence. That didn't happen.
Okay.
It did not happen.
I don't know.
Let me
I
give you
don't
the
know
story.
if you know whether it happened or not.
Well, I
mean,
can tell you why I know it didn't happen.
Okay.
Because we found that little boy less than a week later.
All right.
I was involved, heavily involved, in helping to extricate him from Gaza. 4 different countries were involved in getting he and his mother to safety, get them out of there. Tony Aguilar is a liar.
Okay.
Tony Aguilar claimed that he saw an IDF soldier shoot the little boy. He was fired from the GHF for cause, and he begged for his job back, and they wouldn't give it back because they didn't want him. And he told them that if they didn't give his job back, that he would burn them down.
Okay.
So he goes out. No, let me finish this because it's important for you to understand.
Right.
So this guy then goes out and makes up this story that he witnessed IDF soldiers shooting a little boy.
I don't know that he made it up. He seemed to believe it to me. It's possible he's wrong. I've been wrong many times.
Well, this is a little bit more than just missing a fact. He claimed to be an eyewitness to the murder of a little boy.
Okay.
A little boy that a week later we found.
And you're sure it's the same little boy?
We're absolutely
How
certain.
do you know that?
Because we had pictures of him. We had descriptions of him. We know his name. We know his mother.
Okay.
He was extricated out of Gaza. It was a very delicate situation to get him out because if Hamas had found out that he was still alive, they would have killed him in order to validate Aguilar's story.
How do you know that?
So he gets out.
How do you know Hamas would have killed him?
Why wouldn't they? Wouldn't they have wanted to kill him? Because that way they could have said that this story was true,
Look,
that Aguilar.
if
I'm just telling you that
what
this
you're saying
is,
Yeah, so if Huckabee actually is true, just to jump on Janice Farmers, she's calling BS on Huckabee. If it is true, they should have some data to back that up and show some pictures, right? I can't say that last comment, but that's funny, man. I love those little jokes, man. That's funny.
is
alive
true and I have
today.
no basis of knowing,
Yeah.
I'm really glad because I don't
Good.
want little kids to get killed, even 14-year-olds. Okay.
you shouldn't want anyone to
But
get
let me
killed.
ask you, is it true he also made the claim, and he had audio of it and video too, that U.S. contractors were using live ammunition to disperse crowds? And he had video of that. Do you know did he make up that video?
There were times, here's what happened. Crowds would come toward the sites. They were given verbal warnings, and then they were given additional verbal warnings, and shots were fired either in the air, sometimes in the ground. And if they continued to come and threaten, there were times when there were people who were engaged in firefights. That happened.
Oh, they were armed?
Sometimes they were.
They were. Do you know of specific instances where they were armed?
I can probably get you some specific information about that.
I think I know the answer to that. I don't
Okay.
think there's any evidence at all that they were
But
armed.
I also know that
Are
the
you
new-
okay with using live ammunition at aid distribution sites for families, women, and children?
Very rarely did this happen.
Guys, we're going live every single day of 2026. Make sure you subscribe so you can get hilarious comments like that from, I'm not going to say his name, but the one right above Susie and Susie. Those are hilarious. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the laugh.
Happen near.
How about at all? Are you okay with that?
No. I'll tell you what I'm not
seem like
okay
you're
with.
okay
No. I think you are so trying to put words in my mouth.
Not.
and that's not-
You
that's
said that they
very-
were firing back, but then there's no
but
evidence that they were.
On a Sunday afternoon, I can remember when there was.
So he says that they're firing back, and then he says, I can't really say for sure that they have guns. Come on. Which story is he trying to follow?
widespread reports on BBC, CNN, and the New York Times, and they said that 27 people were killed at a feeding site. We had video extensively over that site. Not one single person, not only were they not shot, nobody was shot at. There was not one bit of violence that happened at that feeding site.
Trying to
but
get me to defend BBC? Not gonna
Thank
do
you, John
that.
Witt.
It's like defending Hamas. I agree with you. I don't believe anything I see in the media. It's just that it's really simple. If people are using, and these were American contractors, by the way, these are not Israelis that I'm aware of. American contractors run by some crypto minister or something was running the group. If they're using live ammunition at an aid distribution site, that strikes me as totally unacceptable.
They were not firing.
Does
at
it seem
crowds.
acceptable to you?
They were not firing
If
at crowds.
people got killed, there's a way
And
to.
some of those people got killed because Hamas were trying to keep them from getting to the aid distribution sites because Hamas was controlling the food. Hamas made $500 million selling the food that was supposed to be given away for free.
Defend.
Hamas controlling the food, and who was paying Hamas through Qatari cash funds that has a paper trail. And just to jump on to what John says, floundering. What is floundering? Floundering means struggling awkwardly or failing to make progress, often because you're confused, unprepared, or overwhelmed. And he's saying that Mike Huckabee is floundering. So well done, W in the chat for John. Thank you, buddy. Great word to use.
Hamas.
And what they were trying to do is to keep people from going to the sites where they were getting food for free. When we set GHF up,
Hamas
the
bad,
first thing that
BBC
happened,
bad.
I know,
Agreed.
but I'm telling you, the first thing that people said was, wow, this is the first time we've had food that we got for free.
Thank you, Bill. We'll listen. See you next time, buddy.
Is it
they
okay
had
to
to buy
shoot
it.
unarmed people?
I just told you it wasn't.
That's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Of course it's awful.
Are all lives equal, do you think?
Of course they are.
So the death of a Palestinian is every bit as important, significant as the death of Israel?
Why wouldn't it be? Of course it is.
I don't know.
Of course it is. There's no such thing as a human soul that God made that is less valuable than another. I'm pro-life.
Me too.
So I believe that every life has intrinsic worth and value. There's no such thing as a worthless or a completely disposable life. That's
Right.
what makes me pro-life, Tucker.
I totally agree.
And I believe that from the conception until the end of natural life.
That's why I would never say when confronted with the death of children, war is terrible, because it minimizes the deaths of those children. It's awful. And
I don't think it minimizes. I think it is
War is
outrageous. It's a terrible thing. I wish.
Neolithic Nuisance 14 says, Tucker Qatar Isin, why are we listening to a propagandist? They played his podcast in Iran during the slaughter, the self-immolation of the Iranian government, and murder of its citizens. Thank you for joining in on the chat. Please let me know what you mean. Can you kind of explain what you're talking about? Thank you, buddy.
We never had war. Why do we have war?
We're about to have one with Iran, it looks like. How many Americans do you think will die in that war?
Bill, yeah, absolutely, buddy. My Discord channel is supposed to be working now on the YouTube, so if you want to join the Discord, if you want to send me messages there, it's brand new. And for everybody, make sure you subscribe, because we're building an amazing community over here.
I hope none. None died last year when we participated in the 12-day war. Not one.
My sense
You said
is-
20,000 would die, and they didn't.
I said could, and they could have. And
But
they
they didn't.
could die now, and that's a real risk.
How many boots on the ground do you think the U.S. has supplied for Israel over the course of its life? How many times have we put soldiers on the ground for Israel?
Well, we had the Iraq War, which was for Israel.
No,
I
it
think
wasn't
it's
for Israel.
How was it for us?
Well, because it was a retribution against 9/11. Now, was it the best idea?
Was
It was
Iraq
not for-
involved in 9/11?
Our government thought so.
Why are 9/11 documents still classified?
Our government thought so. Thought so. He didn't say our government is sure.
I have no idea.
Should they be unclassified?
I think so.
All of them, right?
I have no problem with that.
Me too.
I like transparency. I like sunlight.
I do. Too. I hope you'll call for
I
that.
like free press. I like free speech.
I totally agree.
I like all of that.
But if there was no connect, I've never seen, I'm open to anything, but I've never seen any connection between the government of Saddam Hussein, the secular Ba'athist government of Saddam Hussein, and the terror attacks of 9/11.
I don't know that there were. I don't know.
Right. So
I'm not sure, but I don't know how.
So
that,
why
that,
did we
that, Why was
spend-
that Israel's fault?
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu, now prime minister, of course, exerted lots of pressure openly on the U.S. government to regime change the Saddam government. I was there. It was in Washington, and they complied. I mean, I don't think there's any way to read it.
Do you think Israel leads the U.S. and pushes them and tells them what to do?
Well, not on everything, of course.
Do you think? What
but
do
I
they
think. Let me
push
be
them on?
specific. I
Okay.
think the Israeli government strongly pushed the United States to take out Saddam Hussein. There's no question about that. I think the Israeli government right now, on Bibi Netanyahu, who's been in the White House 7 times in 1 year,
Yeah.
pushing for regime change in Iran. I think they're on the verge of convincing this administration to affect regime
You think
change
the
in Iran.
president is weak?
Is Huckabee taking lessons? Tucker Carlson just gave him 2 incredibly detailed answers to his question, and Mike Huckabee keeps on running around the excuse bush, just trying to find little leaves of excuses rather than answering the questions.
And is being pushed?
I'm not saying that. I know.
No, but-
I know the president's being pushed. Why do you think a foreign leader was in the White House 7 times in 1 year? Are you okay with that? That's a lot.
Israel is not just a friend or an ally. It is a real partner. We have an incredible relationship with Israel in intelligence and in military, in culture, in values. To be shocked that the Israeli prime minister would have that many meetings, it's a lot. But I want to ask you the question. Do you think President Trump is weak enough to let Bibi Netanyahu
I don't.
push him into something that he doesn't want to do?
I don't. Look, I think, and I don't know, of course, the answer to every question, including.
Yeah, Mike Me 7861. Tucker is the most truthful journalist I ever watched. Absolutely. Tucker is an incredible person. Absolutely incredible journalist. And seems like such a nice guy. Stands for some good things. So, yeah, W in the chats for Tucker Carlson.
This one, but I think the President Trump really doesn't like nuclear proliferation, and I don't think he wants Iran to have a bomb. I think he really sincerely means
I hope
that.
you don't want them to have a bomb.
Want them to have a bomb? I don't want anyone to have a bomb, including Israel. I don't know why we're okay with Israel having nuclear weapons. I'm not. I'm not okay with Pakistan having them. I'm not okay with Saudi having them. Israel's nuclear weapons were created, of course, with nuclear material stolen from the United States, from a nuclear plant in Pennsylvania, as I know you know. I'm opposed to all of it. I don't like nuclear weapons. It's mass murder, as far as I'm concerned. So no, I don't want Iran to have a bomb, obviously. The question is, what are the potential costs? And you have to factor that into any decision. And
what are the costs if they were to get a nuclear bomb? They've said for 47 years, death to America.
Well, I don't think
they target us.
I don't think
they've targeted President Trump specifically.
Is this documented? I got to see. Is this actually documented?
Yeah, I mean,
they've hired a person to assassinate him.
Iran, BBC, and Hamas not defending him.
Good.
We're
in agreement on that.
Our country is not thriving, and we're spending tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars over time defending Israel and helping it prosecute all.
You know where that money goes?
Goes to a lot of places.
Oh, but let's talk about that a minute. $3.8 billion a year. That money goes right back to the U.S. to purchase weapon systems. For example, every round of ammo that the IDF shoots is manufactured just outside where I live in Little Rock, Arkansas. The components, a lot of them for the Iron Dome and the Arrow 3 missile defense systems are manufactured near Camden, Arkansas.
Which needs it, by the way. Camden's economically depressed.
You know the area.
I do.
And there are thousands and thousands of American jobs. And
all right, we got a little update from Neolithic Nuisance 14. Thank you for the answer, buddy. Tucker Carlson is bought and paid for by Qatar. The fluff pieces he's made praising Sharia law, the blatant lies and misinformation he's already spread is nothing short of filth and bile. Oh, I did not know that he is praising Sharia law. That is brand new news to me. Thank you for joining in on the chat. Got to research that to see if it's accurate.
There are billions.
And we're going live every day, 2026. So make sure you subscribe, like, turn on those notifications.
And billions of dollars of expenditures that Israel makes in the U.S. and buys the things that we.
I know how defense contracting works. I'm from Washington.
Okay.
No, I know this. I guess what I'm saying is America's not thriving at all.
So, because, I don't want to pick sides, but I kind of trying to find truth here. So the short answer is yes, it is 100% documented and factual that people in Iran, including officials and crowds, have chanted death to America. It's been used since 79. Began during the Iranian Revolution, popularized by Ruhollah Khomeini, and it has been repeated for decades. And it's publicly documented many times. It's considered a core slogan of the Iranian regime. But what does it mean, actually? It's not necessarily literal death to America. But Khomeini said it refers to U.S. leaders, U.S. policies, and arrogance, not civilians. So when they say death to America, they're talking about the leaders, policies, and the arrogance, not necessarily the civilians. So it might be closer to like down with America, or we oppose United States power. Not always we want to extinguish Americans. So it's true, it was documented, but it's not actually meaning what it means, because from the lips of Khomeini, he says it refers to the leaders, policies, and arrogance, not the actual civilians. So the phrase is real. The interpretation is where people argue. And so make sure y'all subscribe and like. And we're going live every day at 2026.
And
you think it's Israel's fault?
I don't think it's Israel's
Okay,
fault.
well, good,
No,
because I think
I just think that what we're doing isn't working at all, and America's not
I think
rich.
the president is doing some amazing things to get us back on
I'm
track.
not attacking Trump.
Okay.
I'm merely saying that over, say, the last 20 years, America's not gotten richer or freer at all. And I come to Israel and the infrastructure, we were flying in, and I said to my buddy, I was like, man, first of all, it looks great. I love the agriculture in Israel because it's beautiful. I love green. I love plants.
I remember when it didn't look like that.
Yeah.
First time I came here 53 years ago,
It's great.
it did not look like that.
Great. Looks a lot nicer than our country. And it has higher standard of living. It has nicer roads than the United States. And so it's like, okay, why are we sending all this money to a country that has a higher standard of living than ours?
I don't know that they have a higher standard of living.
They do, actually. They have free health care. They also have free abortion. Are you okay with that?
I personally don't like that.
Why would we be subsidizing? Why would we send any
We're
money?
not. The
Why would
money
we
that
send any money to a country that provides free abortion?
Because the money that we send does not pay for health care. It does not pay for abortion. It pays for
It's all
military
fungible.
things.
It's like if they don't spend it on this, they'll spend it on
But
that.
they do spend it on that, and then we get many more times back in the return on the investment when
Why
we
don't
get
we
the
say
research
we're not
and
sending you
development.
any more money as long as you have free abortion?
Well, that would be a policy decision. I
Would
would
you be
be
for that?
I would be okay with it because I hate abortion. I think it's horrible.
How much do you hate it?
I hate it
Why
a
are we
lot.
sending them money if they're paying for free
Because they're not
abortion?
paying for abortions with the money. And because we, in turn, get billions of dollars. The return on investment is estimated somewhere between 400 and 1,200%.
I've heard these numbers. I just live
Yeah.
there, and I know, and by the way, I'm for American manufacturing. The defense industry is totally corrupt and seedy, as you know. However, I like to see American companies thrive. Like, it's complicated. I'm not an extremist or an absolutist on really anything other than abortion. However, net, as we say, our country's not really thriving. And we're
Why
also
is that-
totally
but
broke.
why is that the case? Is it because we've done a lousy job controlling our borders, a lousy job of controlling
It's
our
lots of
economy?
things.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we own that. I think President Trump is doing remarkable things to turn it around. I cannot imagine
I'm not
any
attacking
president.
Trump.
I know, but if you're saying the country is in trouble, let's
saying
give
we're out of
credit.
money, actually,
let's
is
give
what I'm-
credit to what the president is doing to get us out of debt, because I think that what he's doing economically.
I'm not supporting
is astounding.
Hamas, and I'm not attacking Trump.
Okay.
Just with those baseline agreements. It's also true that, like, our debt is not sustainable.
Tucker Carlson is not supporting Hamas, but who is?
And so given that, like, what do you think it will cost? What did it cost to move the fleet off Iran into the Persian Gulf?
A lot less than it would to bury a lot of Americans if they ever got a long-range ballistic missile. A lot less.
Yeah,
Tucker, I want you to understand that when Iran has told us for 47 years they're going to kill us, do you think they would do it if they had the capacity militarily?
What would happen if...
All right, so just to kind of clarify what someone in the chat talked about with Tucker Carlson and Sharia law. So what actually happened is Tucker Carlson did make comments that suggested some Sharia law societies are more stable or more confident than Western ones. That's real and that's documented. But he did not say America should adopt Sharia law. And he did not say Sharia law is better for the U.S. He was comparing cultural cohesion, not endorsing the system. So another claim was he was bought by Qatar. He attended events in Qatar, interviewed leadership, and said he planned to buy a home there. So what is not proven is that he took money from Qatar, was paid to push propaganda. He explicitly said he has never taken anything from Qatar. And yeah, so the rumor comes from, people accusing him of being influenced or point to Qatar's lobbying efforts. Some claims about payments, but not independently verified. So, yeah, there you go. And we're going live every day of 2026, so make sure you subscribe and like.
Iran took out any of the energy facilities in the Gulf, took out a bunch of them, what would happen to the United States economy, do you think?
Well, our economy probably would survive because we have energy independence thanks to President
Who
Trump.
would survive?
Our economy is
What would
based
happen
on our
to
own
markets? What do you think?
energy. It would be a terrible thing to happen globally. It's why Iran is a global threat. It's why Iran, through its proxies, Tucker, this is another thing. People
They're
think
not
Iran,
blowing up energy infrastructure right now, but if we try to regime change them, they have said that they will. I don't know if they will or not.
I don't either.
Is that a risk that...
But they have their own problems to defend if they try to do that and they lose their own energy capacity.
Are you worried about... So if they took out... And I don't know what's going to happen. And I guess we're not supposed to think about worst case because that makes us pro-Islamic or something. But I'm an American and I don't want a depression in our country. It's too fractured and unstable right now. I don't think we want that at all. Okay.
None of us want that. None of us want that.
Not right now, we don't. Not at all.
No, I don't want it. I don't want it next year, next week, 10 years from now.
Especially now, all these states are basically in a state of insurrection against the federal government. They're not enforcing the most basic law of the land, which is immigration.
And thank goodness President Trump is pushing back and he's
I agree. I'm just saying,
seeking to force
if all of a sudden
compliance,
markets just tanked and gas tripled or whatever, and you had, like a severe recession or something worse, that's a massive cost. And I don't see anybody factoring in that possibility. Iran has said it will do it. You've said 10 times they're evil. Okay, I believe you. Then why wouldn't they take out the Qatari gas fields they share with Qatar, or refining, petrochemicals, extraction in any of the Gulf countries? That would cripple us.
Are
you worried
energy-wise, again, we have independence because President Trump put measures in place that gave us the capacity.
Do we set international energy prices in the United States?
In some ways we do, because our own market and our own production has a whole lot to do with what those world costs are going to be.
If you took Saudi energy production or Qatari energy...
Thank you, Mike. See you next time, buddy. Make sure you all subscribe, like, turn on notifications.
Energy production or Emirati energy production
and
offline.
That is making an assumption that if there were regime change, that they would be more effective at attacking than we would be defending. And that's a pretty...
Can we defend the Straits of Hormuz? Can we defend all of that energy infrastructure? Is anyone even asking these questions, or it's all like a Mark Levin episode where they're bad?
They are certainly asking the questions. That's part of the whole process.
I'm just saying, I've raised this before, and it's like, shut up, Carlson. You're taking money from the jihadis. I've never taken a dime from...
We just brought that up. Oh my gosh. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Tucker, you are amazing, buddy.
Anybody, obviously. I just care about the United States, and it freaks me out, and no one else seems worried about this.
In caring about the U.S., you should care about the fact that the proxies of Iran have moved globally. 12 Central and South American countries have Hezbollah deeply embedded. Venezuela, one of the worst. They're in the Western Hemisphere already. Do we know how
Where
many...
would you rank that on the list of concerns for the average American, Hezbollah in South America?
I doubt most Americans think about it. I think about it because I know what they do. I know that if it weren't for Iran, there wouldn't be Hamas, there wouldn't be the Houthis, there wouldn't be Hezbollah. We wouldn't have the problem on the border with Lebanon. We wouldn't have the problem with Yemen. We wouldn't have the
problem on the border with Lebanon? I'm an American. I'm not having any problems on the border with Lebanon right now. I live in Maine. We don't have problems on the border of Lebanon. Like, what are you even talking about? No offense.
There's 700,000 Americans who live in Israel, for one thing. Does that matter to you?
Well, of course, every American life matters to me.
Every life, you say, matters the same?
Every life, regardless. Just every life matters. Every single one.
So that should matter.
When they start, my country, I'm just saying,
shelling civilians and civilians get killed and displaced, that should matter to all of us.
But I mean, there's a genocide going on, in all kinds of different countries. There's a lot that's sad and broken about the world. We know that as Christians, Satan rules the world. But our job as members of a nation state is to look after our community,
100%.
Our families, right? So I don't think any of the concerns that you've just raised, which I think are all real, I'm not disputing them at all, are even in the top 100 for Americans. So how can the U.S. government be spending this much time and money worrying about things that are not on the list of Americans' concerns? Do we have self-government? Does it matter what Americans actually think, or doesn't it?
Of course it does, but it also matters.
How much does it matter?
What the threat is to Americans. Do you think there's a threat to Americans because of the proliferation of the proxies in Iran?
Conceivably there is. I'm not pro-Iran.
But beyond conceivably, do you think that they mean it when they say for 47
drug cartels in my town, and no one's doing anything about it at all?
And I'm hearing a lot about doing anything about that?
No one's doing anything about it at all.
That's wild.
That's a fact. We have a huge country. This is
we
a
do.
country the size of New Jersey with no resources. It's just a tiny little country. We're from a huge continental-sized country that's totally diverse, very, very hard to manage and police, and we have a lot of problems. And I just think if you ask Americans, what do they want to spend their time and money worrying about, fixing, improving? No one's going to mention the border with Lebanon that I know. Do you think?
I doubt they will. But
Then
I
why
would
are we
like to
doing
think,
this? Don't their
I would like to
opinions
think that there
matter?
are people that the U.S. government has monitoring what the threats are to Americans long term.
Sure, yeah,
Do
I
you
agree.
think there's a threat? The question is, when people
We
tell
thought
you
there was
for
a threat from
47
Saddam.
years, well, but I don't know that Saddam ever said he was going to take down America. But
You just
the
said-
Iranian regime has said for 47 years they are.
Well, you just
If they had the capacity of a long-range ballistic missile,
So we just looked that up, and we know that that's not actually accurate from Mr. Mike Huckabee. How nice would it be if, like, there was someone on the side, like, just saying, like, hey, Mr. Huckabee, I understand you said that, but what Omani was trying to, or however you say that dude's name, was trying to say is down with the politicians and the policies, not with the civilized, with the civilians.
and nuclear capability, do you think they'd light that puppy up and send it to us?
I don't know. But I know.
Well, I know this from sitting here last year, 4 wars that I went through in less than a year. The Iranians rained down ballistic missiles.
Can I ask you a question? Like, how much does it matter what Americans think?
Well, it matters every bit what Americans think.
It matters every bit what Americans think, okay?
That's why
Okay.
Americans vote. It's why Americans have the opportunity to have free speech. We want them to have that.
Okay, so what percentage of Americans support a war with Iran?
I don't know. Do you know?
I do.
He doesn't know, but what Americans think means everything to him.
So I think it's around, I saw the numbers yesterday, I think it was like 21%.
Okay.
Is that enough to have a war with Iran?
We don't live in a world where you have a poll taken to find out whether our policy should be a particular direction. Because
I thought you just said that
that's
we
direct
vote.
democracy. No, we care deeply about it. But on the other hand, do we make the decisions of foreign policy and even domestic policy based on
We
what
care
the
deeply
latest
about
poll
it in
number
what
is?
sense? How, if we're ignoring it, then in what sense do we, quote, care deeply about it?
Well, I think we care deeply when we see there's a threat.
No, but about Americans' opinions. So you've got 350 million Americans. They vote. They voted in this last election on the basis, in part, of the promise no more wars. Okay, so now we're about to have a war. Looks like 80% of people are against it. In that range, let's say 70%, but nowhere near majority support for this war. And it's not direct democracy, but it is a form of democracy. It's representative democracy.
The ultimate form of democracy in our system, in a republic, because we're not a true democracy, we're a
Right,
republic.
exactly. Right. It's a mediated democracy.
It'll be an opportunity for Americans to vote if they think that we've made the wrong policy decisions. I personally think the president is making the right policy decisions.
But I guess, but you just said it matters deeply what Americans think, and if the overwhelming
does
majority are against it, in what sense does it matter? Because what I hear is it matters what they think, but it really doesn't matter what they think because.
No, you take it in, you certainly ingest that.
And then what do
but
you do with
ultimately-
it once you ingest it?
Then you make sure that you have no.
You just gotta.
if you
It goes
have-
out the other end, obviously.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, Tucker. But you also have information that the average American may not have.
What
They
is
may
that
not know what the threat is. How many Americans know that Hezbollah is in 12 Western Hemisphere
How
countries?
many Americans care?
Well, I would hope they would all care. How many Americans know
No, not so
how
much.
many
Not so
people
much.
from Iran, from terrorist cells, have come across Joe Biden's open border? How many Americans
Well, I
care
definitely
about that?
care about that.
Okay, you
Why
care
haven't
about
they
it,
been rounded up?
but they're trying. But you got all these blue state mayors and governors making it very
it. I
difficult.
get it.
But thank God President Trump is trying to get it done.
Look, I'm totally all for that completely.
Okay.
I guess what I'm saying is that most Americans, I've never met an
J. Odon 67. Thank you, buddy. See you next time. Take care. Have a great day.
American who thinks, other than like the people who have ideological reasons to pretend they think it, that the imminent threat to America is anything having to do with Iran. The imminent threats to America include like bankruptcy from too much debt, your son ODing on fentanyl,
Yeah.
your neighborhood completely changing because unlike Israel, Americans don't have a right to their country. It can just be completely changed by their legislature. New people can show up from foreign countries and not speak your language, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't have a right because you're not Bibi. Can you feel the resentment? Because it's real. I'm not against Israel. I'm against the total destruction.
You hide that very well.
I'm mad at my lawmakers for not protecting my country with the care they've protected Israel.
I don't think that your country, my country, our country, has spent that much time protecting Israel. I asked you a little bit ago.
They spent no time protecting my country.
No, I ask you, well, actually they do.
How?
They are the tip of the spear. Every enemy they have is our enemy.
Our country?
Things that are targeted toward us often go through them.
How do we have 60 million illegal aliens if they protected my country?
Well, that we didn't protect our country because we had a president that opened up the borders and didn't give a rip.
This has been going on since Reagan.
Coming in.
Since Reagan, 1986.
Yeah, but
that's 40 years
President
this year.
Trump the credit for having closed the border.
I love the fact, I campaigned for Trump because he said he'd close the border. He did. Amen. Thank you, Trump. But we had Reagan. Then we had Bush. Then we had Clinton. Then we had Bush again. Ugh. Then we had that guy, Obama. And then, you know the presidents.
Yeah.
And they all presided over my country's total transformation from a nice, clean, affluent, orderly society into like pretty kind of third world, actually. That's not protecting us. That's behaving with total contempt for my country.
You said a moment ago that we do more, or you inferred that we do more for Israel than we do for ourselves. Do you believe that?
No, I don't. I didn't say we do more for Israel. It's like, but where's the care? Where's the concern? Where's the, holy smokes, there are drug cartels in your neighborhood? You're telling me about the border with Lebanon and like Hezbollah or Hezbollah, whatever you call it, in some Latin American country? I don't care. There are drug cartels in my neighborhood. I know people who've died of fentanyl ODs.
Where'd the fentanyl come from? Probably from China.
From Mexico.
From China through Mexico.
The precursor chemicals, they say, come from China.
There's probably a reason he doesn't want to say where it came from.
I get it.
And who's in that axis with China? Iran.
Larry Fink is in that axis with, no, actually, the heads of our biggest corporations are in that axis with China. I don't care about Iran at all. I care about America. And if blowing up Iran makes my country richer and safer, I'm for it. And if it doesn't, I'm totally opposed.
So just to clarify, someone in the chat says, we know all the sleeper cells and we're watching them. Trump. So what they're claiming is that the government has identified hidden inactive threat groups and is monitoring them closely. We're live every day of 2026, so make sure you subscribe and like.
It's that simple. I think most Americans feel that way, no?
I asked you a question a little bit ago you never got back to because I think it's an important one. Because one of the things that I sense a tension with you, you feel like that we do too much for Israel, we're getting nothing from it. And I ask you how many...
No, I don't think we're getting nothing.
How many boots on the ground has the U.S. placed on behalf of Israel?
However many went to Iraq. We did that for Israel.
No, I don't...
He seems to be going in a circle, and he knows he just lost this question, and he's trying to ask the question again. Come on, Mr. Huckabee.
I don't think we did.
But you said we did it because of 9/11?
That was the U.S. justification for it.
But it wasn't for 9/11. So what was the actual reason?
Well, that's the U.S. government told us it was for 9/11. They told us that they were part of it, that they had weapons of mass destruction.
But they knew they had
all
nothing to do with 9/11, obviously.
Maybe
There's no evidence.
But I'm
so what was the actual
Israel
reason?
was not in that component. But
Israel had no influence on our decision to invade Iraq. That's not what the people who made the decision say. They say Israel.
Well, let me get back to the point.
Gave us.
He won't let him finish his statement. My goodness. Oh, my goodness.
That information about the fake weapons of mass destruction. Where do you think that came from? It came from Bibi.
How many Americans put their boots on the ground for Israel? The answer is zero.
Everybody who served in Iraq put their boots on the ground for Israel.
Did not.
Where did we get the information about the weapons of mass destruction that wasn't real?
We didn't get that from... You're saying we got that from Israel? That Israel was one pushed us into that?
Well, absolutely.
You really believe that?
I know that for a fact. And so does every... Yes, this has been widely written about and discussed. And I'm not attacking Israel. Like, they thought it was in their interest to take out a government that was paying the families of suicide bombers. I get it. I'm not mad at Israel about that. I never have been. I'm mad at the Bush administration and all the people who went along with this to the detriment of my country. That's who I'm mad at, not Israel. Bibi's doing what he can for his country, whether you agree with him or not. I want my leaders to do the same for my country.
So, Tucker, seems like a great guy. He wants the best for his country, and he's not being mean to Israel here.
That's it.
I think the present leadership is doing just that. I truly do. And I don't think that it's at all accurate to even intimate that tiny little Israel is pushing the U.S. into something it does not want to do.
Our leaders appear to want to do it. Our public does not want to do it at all. The public does not want war with Iran. Bibi does. He's gotten...
Thank you, E.M. Mawen. Good to see you. Have a good day.
seven trips to the White House. The average American...
But the question would be...
Hold on. The average American doesn't have that level of access, and a foreign leader does. 7 in 1 year, and now we're moving toward war with Iran. The average American doesn't want that war. The average American is outraged. Don't you understand? I'm not attacking Bibi at all.
The strongest president I've ever seen in my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, for God's sake.
If you're an American...
No, listen to me, Tucker, for God's sake.
I'm not attacking Trump. I like Trump.
I know, but you're making it sound like that he is being pulled into something that he really doesn't want to do, or pulled into something because he's persuaded.
I'm neither saying that nor implying.
I was in the meeting last week. I was in the meetings last summer. I can assure you, President Trump is not being led into something at all by Prime Minister Netanyahu.
To be clear, I'm neither saying that nor implying it.
Good.
What I am stating out loud is true, and that's that Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, has way more influence over Americans' foreign policy than Americans do. And we know this because he wants a war with Iran. The overwhelming majority of Americans don't want a war with Iran, and we're very likely to get a war with Iran. So who has more influence, Benjamin Netanyahu or 80% of Americans? And I'm saying that's outrageous. That's all I'm saying.
I would counter that. Bibi Netanyahu does not want a war with Iran. To say that he wants a war, you know who's going to be at the very front of that? His people. And I don't agree with that. I'm with him enough to know he does not want a war.
He doesn't.
Does he think that there may be a necessity of taking a war in order to prevent an attack on not just Israel,
I don't want to be argumentative, but I think I know too much. I mean, let's be real. Okay, so there was, Steve Witkoff, in my opinion, is just a sterling guy, just a good guy, excellent
He's a good guy.
That's my view.
Yeah.
And kind of pro-American and just couldn't be nicer and wants to do the right thing, and he's probably Trump's best friend. He, and maybe Jared too, are involved in a negotiation with Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Or you mean with Iran?
With Iran.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And the Israeli government short-circuits it by hitting Iran. So, like,
What do you mean they short-circuited by hitting Iran?
They did everything they could to shut down the negotiations between the United States, the Trump administration, and Iran. And look, they're acting again in their own interest. But our country should also act in its own interest. That's all I'm saying. And don't tell me that Bibi doesn't want a war with Iran.
He doesn't. If Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff could be successful in getting the president's demands, and keep in mind, these are the president's demands.
What are those demands?
No enrichment, no nuclear weapon, quit killing your own people in the streets by the tens of thousands. You and I both agree that it's a horrible thing to kill your own citizens, which Iran is doing.
It's a horrible thing to kill anybody's citizens.
Anybody's citizens. We agree on that.
Except that they're 14-year-olds working for Hamas, but whatever.
It's still a tragedy.
No, it is. Sorry, I'm being a jerk.
You really are being a jerk.
I am. I know.
You are being a jerk on that.
I am such a jerk.
I'm going to write down.
You're right.
Tucker
You're right.
Carlson
I know.
Admitted.
I know.
He's a jerk.
Oh, I am a jerk. Everyone knows that. I mean, I'm really trying. Okay. No, but I agree with you 100%. Of course, it's a tragedy.
If that could be done, and I pray it can.
Yes.
And you know why? Number one, because it would be wonderful for everybody. Number two, if there is a war, you're going to be 6,000 miles from it. You know where I'm going to be? In the bullseye. Do I want there to be a war? No. Do Israelis want there to be a war? No.
How many? I keep hearing Israel's fighting a 7-front war right now. What are those 7 fronts?
Well, you got Lebanon. You have Egypt. Now, Egypt is not an active war. but you have the Muslim Brotherhood within Egypt.
So this is an interesting part here, and I think this is a perfect time for a little segue to kind of attach what Mr. Huckabee is talking about here. So if you see, let me see, can you see this in the chat? Yes, you can. All right, so this is actually what's on the IDF soldier badge on the left side. And then on the right side, there's Greater Israel. So I don't know, some people are thinking this is what's going to happen. And here's Iran, who might be their new neighbors if everything goes as planned. So we will see what are those 7 wars that are happening right now. 7 fronts.
You've got the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan. You've got Syria.
Wait, they're fighting a war with Jordan?
With the Muslim Brotherhood that is in Jordan, not directly with Jordan, not the government of Jordan.
But are they...
You've got Hezbollah. You've got...
In Lebanon.
Houthis.
In Yemen.
You have Hamas in Gaza. You have the threats that come from Iran. And how many is that?
That's 7.
That's 7, okay. I'll give you an 8th
Jordan.
one. You know the 8th one? The media. No, I would tell you there's an 8th front war. They fight...
How many journalists has Israel killed in Gaza?
I don't know.
Over 200. It seems like
Now, are they real journalists? Because a lot of those people that were supposedly journalists were actually Hamas fighters that are documented Hamas fighters. So that's why I ask you, how many are actual journalists?
I don't know, but a lot of them were. I mean, they worked for big news organizations and they had press written on their chests.
Yeah, some of them had UNRWA cars, and they were also working for Hamas.
So are
Hamas
you concerned? So do you think that over 200 journalists killed in Gaza are all fake journalists who deserve to be
I
killed?
have no idea how many the total number is. I don't have their credentials, but I know that there were quite a few that were actually Hamas fighters that protected Hamas. Ask the hostages. The hostages came back and they started telling about the number of people that were doctors in hospitals that held them hostage in their homes, or the number of people who were pretending to be journalists who were actually holding them hostage.
As someone
I'm just telling you that there's a lot more to what...
As someone whose tax dollars helped pay for killing all those civilians in Gaza, I feel like I have a right to know how many were killed, and Israel won't let outside observers in to figure it out, and I'm frustrated. I just want to say that. My last question is about Christians, both Christians who visit and Christians who live here, particularly in the West Bank. I spoke to someone recently, a Christian minister who grew up in a town right outside Bethlehem. We would know it.
Somerville in the chat. The fact he claims Bibi doesn't want wars is hilarious. W in the chat for that. Everybody, we're going live every day of 2026, so make sure you subscribe and like so you get some amazing content.
The shepherd's field in the New Testament, where the shepherds were tending their flocks in Matthew, and of course the angels come and announce the arrival of Jesus in nearby Bethlehem. His family's been Christian, he says, for 2,000 years. He says where he grew up is now surrounded by settlements of people who are not from Israel at all. A lot of them are from the United States, Jewish settlements. They have different roads that the native Christians are not allowed to use. I don't quite know how that works. And he described a story where his mother was shot outside their house by an IDF soldier for reasons no one ever explained. She survived.
Kaziwa, how you doing? Thank you for joining in on the chat. What do you mean by that?
But no one was ever punished for it or even explained why they did it. And he basically described being terrorized by settlers. And I wonder if that's a concern for you, for the native population, the indigenous population.
Did you say this happened in Bethlehem?
It happened in Shepherd's Field, so it's a Christian village. Bet Sahur, I think, is its name. Right outside Bethlehem.
If it's in Bethlehem...
It's not in Bethlehem. I think it's Bet Sahur, I believe, is the name of the village.
Because there are no Israelis in Bethlehem, none. There are no Jews in Bethlehem.
Are there new settlements outside Bethlehem, where he is from?
Over in Area C, but not in Area A. There are none.
Well, he describes the town he grew up in, and I guess I wonder why a Christian whose family's been there for 2,000 years.
There are Palestinian Christians throughout Judea and Samaria. That's true. I've been over to visit them. I go there regularly.
I know you have, and some have been,
We've advocated for some that are Muslim, but they're American citizens, and we advocated because there was
But why can't they just drive into Jerusalem to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? Why do they need a permit to do that if they're from there?
Because of the acts of terrorism that has made it impossible to do it.
But they're-
You know how many
but
suicide...
hold on.
No.
But
Let me...
They need a permit to go to the Holy Church? Oh, Lord.
Christians. They don't
You
commit
asked this
suicide.
question. So what do we do? Just say you're a Christian? Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. But you're wearing a suicide bomb?
Do Christians do suicide bombs?
They could. If all they have to do is just announce I'm a Christian. There were over 1,000...
Why not just get an identity card that says I'm Christian?
Let me just finish this. Before Israel put the green line up, and before they took great care to put checkpoints in place, there were over 1,000 suicide bombers in 1 year.
It was awful.
In 1 year.
I remember it, but I don't think any of them were Christians. And
They might not have been.
okay,
But my point is...
we could find out if they were. And I
So
don't think
you're
they
saying
were.
we just trust somebody if they come up and say, I'm a Christian, I just want to go to the Holy Sepulchre, let me in?
What I'm saying is that Christians have a right to go to the Holy Sepulchre. Israel does not own it. They've had possession of it since 1967. It doesn't belong to Bibi. It belongs to me and you and every other Christian.
Bibi was probably a young person. I'm not even sure he was...
No Christian should
1967.
ever be barred from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Should Christians be
period.
barred from Joseph's tomb in Nablus?
I don't know. Let's just start with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
let's
in
start with the Church of the
Jerusalem.
Holy Sepulchre.
And I don't understand on what grounds
People
they
can go to
are
the-
barred. Well, they can't if they're Christians at Bet Sahur. So I don't understand why they're a threat. They're not a threat. And why won't you, as the Christian minister, U.S. ambassador to the state of Israel, say to the prime minister, you can't allow this? Your country exists in part because American Christians support you, so you have to treat us well.
Yeah, do your job, man. Come on. What are you doing? You don't want Christians to go to Israel?
The problem, Tucker, is that in the Palestinian Authority, and that's what we're talking about, there are Christians. Look, I know some Christians who live in Bethlehem, and that is Area A. Bethlehem was 80+% Christian before Oslo. 80% Christian. Less than 20% Muslim. Today it's flipped. It's now 80+% Muslim. It's very few Christian. And some of the Christians that I personally know and know well are Zionist. Let that surprise you. They're
That's great.
Zionists. They're
And-
hardcore
and
Zionists.
some are
Let me finish
really
my train of thought here.
anti-Zionist. Okay.
So in the Palestinian Authority, they still teach children from the time they're 5 years old that the greatest thing in the world is to kill Jews. And that if they end up being a martyr, and if they kill Jews, they will get a pension for life if they die. And if they don't, they'll get a paycheck for life, and their families will. And it's called the Prisoners and Martyrs Fund. We call it Pay for Slay in the U.S. It is against our
A
law.
lot of Christians collecting on that?
I don't know.
Zero.
I
So
don't
my
know.
question remains, and I'm a little bit frustrated at this point, because I'm not defending Hamas. I hate suicide bombing. I hate suicide. I hate violence. I hate the killing of children, period. Why can't a Christian who was born there, whose family's been there for 2,000 years, following Jesus for 2,000 years, drive, because it's really close, to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? He poses no threat. And why can't the United States government advocate for him to do that?
We do advocate for Americans.
So Huckabee was actually correct in those numbers. In Bethlehem today, Muslims take up about 85 to 90% of the populations, while Christians take up about 10 to 15%. And just for some historical context, in 1950s, it was about 85 to 87% Christian. But now it's not that way anymore. And Bethlehem is still symbolically Christian, but demographically, it is now overwhelmingly Muslim. And make sure y'all subscribe and like, because we're going live every day of 2026.
Because that's our job. And it doesn't matter whether they're Palestinian or Israeli. We do that. But as far as when they...
How many Americans are being held in Israeli prisons right now?
Total, I don't have an exact number on that. I don't know.
How can you advocate for them if you don't know how many there are?
Well, everyone that we know, we go visit. Our consular goes there almost every week and visits the Americans. It's not a large number as far as Americans. But when we have them, we go.
Carrie Widstrand 893 says, I had a student from Egypt that had a special Christian tattoo so he could go into his because of the bombers. Yeah, that's wild. And a lot of the Christians over there, they have a certain tattoo on them, which shows that they are Christian. So if the Lord calls them back earlier than later, people who are still on earth know what to do with that. So, yeah, thank you for joining in on that. That is accurate.
We go to their trials when they're on trial. So, yeah, we do a lot more than you've given us credit for.
Oh, I'm giving you credit. No, you
okay,
understand.
please.
I'm giving
Thank
you
for
credit
doing that because we don't get much.
No,
we don't get much.
By the way, not every embassy does that. I happen to know for a fact. They don't advocate for Americans in jail. And
we take our consular services across into the Palestinian Authority and help people over there. Some of those are Christians, some are not, some are Muslim. But if they're Americans and they have American citizenship and an American passport, we help them.
That makes me so happy to hear.
I go to Ramallah. I sit down with the vice president and the prime minister of the Palestinian Authority. We try to work ways to make things better.
There's some amazing persimmon at Ramallah, just to let you know.
But the reason that sometimes it's not just an absolute free passage, I'll tell you why, because there are too many incidences of terrorist acts, and Israel is not going to allow themselves.
But the Christians didn't do it, and they're not going to do it, and Christians pay for all of this. They pay for a lot of this.
It's very, you can say it's unfair, but here's
you can't punish the innocent. How's that?
But you got to somehow make sure that you screen people, and that's why the checkpoints. Let me tell you what happened not too very long ago. We had a humanitarian aid truck that came across from Jordan. The driver was supposedly vetted. He was a former Jordanian military person. He came across the checkpoint. Everything should be fine, right? He gets out of his truck, he takes a gun, and he shoots two of the people.
I believe it.
Who are the Israelis at the checkpoint, one of whom was a young person, less than a year in the job. His mother teaches in the American school where our embassy people go in Herzliya. I get to make the phone call to the mother. I'm going to tell you something. It was not the most pleasant day of my life.
It sounds awful.
It is awful. And so those kind of incidences are the reason that it is difficult to go from Judea, Samaria, or the West Bank, call it whatever you want. But if you're in Area A, which is under the control of the Palestinian Authority, and your education has been that killing Jews is a wonderful thing.
I'm talking about the Christians.
But the Christians, if they go to those schools, they're still going to get that education.
When was the last time there was a suicide bomb detonated by a Christian?
I don't know.
Never. Let me ask you this.
Look, I'm not trying to defend, but I'm saying to you that if the curriculum doesn't get changed, if the pay for slay doesn't get changed,
that doesn't apply.
You have a culture. Well, you say it doesn't apply. Maybe it never has happened. I don't know whether it has ever happened.
When will Palestinians in the West Bank have the same rights as Israelis in the West Bank?
Are you talking about the ones that live in the Palestinian Authority?
I'm talking about people who live in the villages they grew up in.
Yeah, but
changed hands, went from one government to another in 1967.
It makes a difference whether they live under the Palestinian Authority government or whether they live under Israeli. If they live under...
Just to put this into context, this actual interview was taking place in Israel. They're in Israel having this conversation, which makes the stakes even higher.
Area A, do you know the difference?
I do.
Okay.
I'm saying
if they live under Area A, they live under the Palestinian Authority government. They don't live under Israeli government.
But it's controlled by the Israeli government completely. There's no airport. They control the utilities. I mean, it's silly. I understand there's a form of self-government, but the big decisions are made by the Israeli government, obviously. I've been there. I know this. And you know it too. So how long does this go on? You say that God gave the nation of Israel the right to this land. Why not just take it, declare it Israel, and make everyone a citizen? I don't understand why that's not happening.
Well, you know what? There are people who think that that would be a much better
what
future.
Do you think?
I think it very well could be. And if you ask certain people living in the PA under their very corrupt government, where 91% of the people think the government is hopelessly corrupt, that's what the numbers are, they would tell you that they would be better off if the Israelis were the governing authority.
Everyone gets voting rights. Would that be the case?
If they were all under Israeli authority. You know, do you realize there are lots of Arab Israelis?
I know.
And they vote. Do you know they serve in the Knesset?
I'm very aware of that. Okay. And I'm just wondering.
And they serve on the Supreme Court. And did you know that it was an Arab who sentenced a former president and prime minister to prison?
I know this. So I just want to know what's going to happen.
Do you know how many Jews get to help govern Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Syria?
I'm not.
But
I'm not attacking Jews.
This is a much more open government in society, and you make it sound like that the Israelis. I
don't make it sound that way. I'm just asking. No, I'm not attacking the nation of Israel. I'm just wondering what the plan is. So I've been hearing my whole life how bad the PA is. Okay, great. But what's the plan here? So they're moving all these Americans, people from around the world, into settlements subsidized by Americans in the West Bank.
Now, they're not moving them from around the world to the settlements. They're people who make Aliyah. They come.
I'm just saying,
these are Israelis who live in Israel.
Well, there are a lot of people
And
who
Area
come-
C is Israel.
Okay.
Okay?
But does it remain a territory under military control forever? Does it just become part of the state?
You're talking about the Palestinian Authority?
Correct.
That's the big question. Do you believe in the two-state solution? And if you do, I would show you a map, and I would ask you, because this is...
I don't know. I don't know what I think. I just think
right.
you need to treat people like human beings, and that's not
Well,
happening, obviously.
and that would be, you don't glorify their killing.
Yeah, let them go to their church if they want.
See the yellow parts?
Yeah.
That's Palestinian Authority. The tan parts, that's Area B. That's the area that is mixed. Israel has military authority, but the Palestinians can live anywhere they want to in there. And the blue area, that's Area C.
Yeah.
Area C is Israel. And Israelis can live in Israel. That's what it is. Now, when people say they want a two-state solution, I love to show them a map like this, and I ask them, where does that state line up? There is no contiguous way in which it works.
You know, we've got a lot of states in the United States that need help, so I'm not going to weigh in on other people's states, to be
Fine.
totally honest. I just don't want to pay for it anymore and just want to fix our own country. But let me ask you one last question, which is how Christians are treated in Jerusalem. I've talked to so many who've been spit on. I
Really?
talked to,
So many? How many?
well, 2 yesterday.
2. Okay.
Yeah, both Catholic clergy, and
Yeah.
both told me the same thing. Anglican clergy, I interviewed.
I just had dinner recently with a Greek patriarch.
Well, there
He's
have been a
friend.
million stories about this.
Yeah, I know. There are instances where Christians get heckled. Usually it's people who are wearing clerical robes and they're wearing crosses, and it shouldn't happen. It's horrible. It's as bad for that to happen as it is to spit on somebody wearing a kippah in New York City.
I agree.
Terrible. It's horrible.
And actually, I should, to be fair, there is,
Yeah.
and I just learned this, a Jewish Israeli group that keeps track of Christians being spit on in Jerusalem because they're offended by it. And God bless them for keeping track and for being offended by it. But there are an awful lot of examples of that. And my question
That's very cool. And this is just an example that not everyone from one country or religion is bad. The vast majority of people on earth tend to be good. So it's very important to think about that. And yeah, make sure y'all subscribe and like, because we're going live every day of 2026. But just remember, not everyone is bad. Just because there's one bad person does not make the whole group bad.
to you, you're against it, of course. You're Christian clergy.
horribly against it.
What is
But
that?
so is the prime minister, the president, the foreign minister. So is
I get it.
I think every
No one would defend
decent
that.
thinking person.
But
It's
what is
horrible.
it? Why are they spitting
It's
on
a
Christians?
very limited. It's very, very isolated.
But where does it come
But for
from?
the most part, you know what? As Christians, we have freedom of movement here. Tucker, I go to church every Sunday. I play
please answer
bass
my-
guitar in my church band.
I get it.
I don't get hassled being a Christian. Everyone here knows.
If y'all need a bassist, give Mr. Mike Huckabee a call. He plays bass in his church band.
I'm the first evangelical to be ambassador to Israel. Do you think they hate me here? No.
Are evangelicals recognized by the state of Israel?
Yeah.
They
What
are?
do you mean? Yeah.
Okay.
And welcomed and appreciated.
No, but like as a religious, like, are there evangelical churches in Israel?
My gosh, yes. There's 184,000 Christians in Israel.
I know. And
Much larger than.
but there are churches that are non-denominational evangelical here.
Of course. There are, and it ranges from, when you say non-denominational, some of them are affiliated Baptist Assembly of God. Some of them are truly non-denominational.
What a great comment. Common Sense 0420. I don't hate Jews. I hate the special treatment USA has to pay for and cannot challenge. Well said, well said.
Pentecostal, some are Messianic churches,
Right.
where most of the people are ethnically Jewish, but they are Messianic.
Yes.
They believe in Jesus. There are a lot of those churches, and they're spread out all over Israel.
So, but
there's
you,
freedom.
You don't. Oh, there are.
Somerville. Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty much close to having guests on, so yeah, absolutely. Maybe someday we can have you on. Be great to have some guests on. Thank you. And we're live every day of 2026, so make sure y'all subscribe.
Well, I know a lot of Christians in Israel, by the way, yes. And as I said, I really hope I can come back and talk to more. But,
And come to church with me.
oh, I definitely would love
Okay.
that. Why, and I mean it too.
Yeah.
Why would people spit on, like, where does that come from?
I think
Do you
it's
know?
from an evil heart.
Yeah,
What else would it be?
I agree.
I mean, I don't think anybody would ever spit on another person, even if it was, I don't care what a person's religion is or what a person's nationality is. I don't hate anybody. I wouldn't spit on anybody. I wouldn't heckle
agree.
anyone. And I find it repulsive. Nothing about it is defensible.
I will say that this was off camera, but I interviewed this Christian leader here, and I said, oh, that's so awful. And he goes, I feel blessed because Jesus was spit on. And it's an opportunity for humility for me.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a Christian.
Let me say this. I've been coming in and out of Jerusalem and
Yeah.
Israel for soon to be 53 years. Before I came as ambassador, I made over 100 trips here. I've never been spat on.
Good.
I've never had someone yell at me. I've never had an experience where I felt uncomfortable or that I was unwelcome.
If you spit on someone wearing a yarmulke in New York City, you go right to jail. They would not put up with that for 1 second. And they do put up with it here because it still happens.
I'm
That's
not
just
sure
a
they
fact.
do go to jail in New York City. They should. And they should go to jail here.
I'm against it.
They should go to jail here.
Amen. So there were all these Christian ministers who were brought over here, evangelicals, in December. And I think mostly to attack me, but also probably they had other...
Oh, they really weren't here to attack you.
I'm just joking. They were attacking me, but whatever.
Yeah.
But they were flown over by the state. The state paid for it, and they had a conference here. I got one of the guides that they received when they arrived, and I think it's real. And it says, "Don't preach about Jesus when you're in Israel. We don't allow that. Don't do that."
Really?
Yeah. Why would a Christian minister agree not to preach about Jesus?
I'm not sure because I've never heard someone tell another Christian minister not to do that.
Interesting. Good. Well,
Yeah.
I was totally baffled.
What would be the purpose of going to church as a Christian if you didn't talk about Jesus
Couldn't
here?
agree more. Thank you.
I can assure you that the church I attend, we talk about Jesus. I mean, we pray in the name of Jesus.
No,
So
no.
I don't get it.
To anyone else outside the church, are you allowed? Like, could I stand in the corner and just tell people about Jesus here?
You could. I'm not saying you'd get applause or that people would.
Right. That's fine.
But I'm saying there are people that
There's no
that I
law
see,
against that, though.
not that I'm aware of. The only laws that I know of, you can't proselytize someone under the age of 18, and you cannot offer people things of value in order to cause them to listen to your presentation. For example, I can't say, "Hey, for $10, would you let me give you this gospel tract and scream at you?" Can't do that.
Right.
I don't know if it's enforced. I'm not sure. I don't ever hear anyone arrested for it.
But there's no law against just like preaching to
Walk
people.
down to the old city. You'll hear people, out there preaching on the street.
Good.
Now, are they effective? I don't know. I'm not sure that people are stopping and falling on their knees and saying, "Oh, this is what I've been waiting for." I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that the idea that you can't say it, I know that there are places in the rest of this region where you can't do that.
For sure.
Yeah. Qatar, you can't wear a cross in public.
For sure.
You can't pray in public.
I've
Christian
seen a lot
prayer.
of people wearing crosses in Qatar, but
In
I
Qatar?
don't know. I have,
Publicly?
but I don't know what the laws are. Yeah,
In Saudi Arabia? Don't think so.
I doubt it.
The one place is an exception is the Emiratis, and I love those folks because they are so progressive, and they're doing so many things to change the template of things. They have a Abraham house that is a combination synagogue, church, and mosque. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? That they have the same building, and they use it for all three of the major religions of the world, and I think that's incredible. But they're really trying to do things that are beyond what anyone else in the region. They changed their textbooks. They teach that Israel is not a nation they should hate or seek to annihilate. They've done some remarkable things.
Have you been following all this stuff in the? I agree with that. They have a Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi.
There is actually some really cool stuff that the media does not tell you about. I actually spoke to someone when I was in Israel, and he told me that every day, like out of the week, there's Catholics, Orthodox, Muslims, and Jews, and they all get together to try to talk about like how they can create peace in this region. And they pray all the time, which is like very beautiful. And the media doesn't really cover these types of things because the media kind of wants you to focus on certain different things. But there are people actively looking for peace, and it's just something beautiful to think about. And yeah, it helps a lot if you guys subscribe, like, and turn on those notifications.
You've been following all this like hate the Muslim stuff going on in the United States on the right?
I hear some of it, and it's unpleasant. We shouldn't hate anybody.
Amen.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
True.
Hate is an evil thing.
Yeah.
I don't, sometimes you say, I don't support child killing. Okay, I don't either, but I don't support hate in any form. I think it's a horrible thing.
That is such a great standard, and I want to hold myself to that. And thank you for saying that out loud.
I don't hate you.
I hope not. Governor, Ambassador, thank you very much for spending all this time. I appreciate it.
I'm glad.
Yeah, man, that's what an interview. And Tucker Carlson is just a legend. W's for Mr. Tucker Carlson. Just absolutely incredible. Yeah, everybody, I love you. The Lord loves you. We're going live every single day of 2026. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. And there's a chance we're going to be right back. All right, y'all. Thank you so much.